Welcome back to Little Nemo the game. No, seriously. No, seriously. The development of this game is very similar to the development of Little Nemo when you get around to it. Because remember, both cases was one of those where they had no idea what they were going to make because nobody actually bothered to lay down a fucking, plan.
Actually, better question, Pedro. Which is crazier? The development of Little Nemo where they went from director to director to director and yet still kept the material from each different director, which led to parts of the story feeling vastly different, or this game where the localizers may have been on different islands from each other with how each section of a story had to be localized with them without knowing necessarily all the surrounding bits.
Actually, I don't think I talked about that. Well, okay, first of all, you can answer, Pedro.
That was actually an enemy of Cocoon right there, so take a shot.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, actually, I missed out on a lot of things because I had to abstain from alcohol for a few parts. How many times in the intro have they mentioned? Have they mentioned
4 or 5?
Enemy of, okay, hang on, I gotta go some alcohol.
Anyway, go on, Pedro.
Yeah, basically. No,
In answering my question?
I don't know, Jova, to be honest with you, they're both on the same level of complete, disaster, to be honest with you.
Wait. Are you talking about the products themselves or the development, like I was asking?
The development.
Okay. So which do you consider a worse product then? Little Nemo or the
at least with Little Nemo, I can still enjoy the good score and the beautiful animation. This game does look pretty, especially for its time, but even that has kind of lost its luster over the years.
Oh, Jill Nabat, you absolute waste of a character.
Yeah,
Seriously.
exactly. You bothered to have no more. Gave it away. Actually, a really cool design, even in the clothes.
I don't think it was the moral design there because there was actually a mention. Give me just a second so I can confirm more or not.
Regardless, she has an established role as this absolute dick of a villain who they're obviously getting the audience pumped to finally get to fight.
The Scarlet, essentially.
And then they just snatch that away from us by having Daisley just
kill
her and the staff there. It feels like such a...
It does make you wonder if maybe she was going to have a bigger role, but because her content was left in the cutting room floor, they had to basically kill her off early.
Probably. There you go. The personal design, Jill is now Ikeda.
Well, good for him. Good design for Joe. I mean, honestly, a lot of stuff in this game is good design.
It worked actually on designing a couple of characters from 12 and this, like say, for example, Daj, Lebro, or actually Nora as time.
This part of the game.
Now, here's the big question on everyone's mind. What do we do now?
Yeah, this is actually one of the interesting, unique parts of the game because this is one where we can actually talk.
Oh my god, you can't even let Saz have that no more. I mean, Toriyama.
Yeah.
No, basically, he says, I wish I could say it was my skills that saved us, but nah. The ship was basically on autopilot.
Like he said, it was, but go on, Pedro.
Don't worry, Jova. No more only draw them, that's it. But, yeah, you can actually talk to your companions. There's going to be a couple other, like one more section that is like this as well. The game should have done more of this, to be honest with you.
It really should have.
Apparently we were supposed to get a DLC. Again, I mentioned the DLC episode. Apparently we were supposed to get a DLC that was a dungeon just like this. So I get the idea we might have got a situation also like this where you could talk with your companions, like in this particular case.
But yeah, like...
so how funny would it have been if we had to rely on DLC to properly flesh them out?
But yeah, like Jova was saying, Balateo was saying, Saz is basically sad that he couldn't do more, and Faye, of course, is telling us she's worried about Snow because now Snow is incredibly sad because now he realizes that Sarah's focus was actually to help destruction of Cocoon. So of course, because he truly believed. Remember, what kept Snow going up until this point and his positive attitude was that he had complete faith that Sarah's final words of saving Cocoon is exactly what he needed to do. But now that he knows that no, that's not what it's the exact opposite. Yeah, like his one major motivating reason for why he stood this strong without cracking now fell. So of course Snow is kind of unbound on the dumps at this point.
Character stuff overall for Snow. But that being said, Okay, aside from my annoyance with how the story treats says, this does also reveal a bit of a big problem, though. The ship was literally autopiloted, which means that the fallacy are literally pulling the strings here and there.
Hold on, Joe. I have to talk about this. She's saying, don't trust the fallacy's words. Who knows? Maybe our focus is not that. Actually, honey, the fallacy are the ones that decide what the focus is. So I'm afraid you're kind of barking the wrong tree there.
Okay. To her credit, I guess her logic is that he's not the fallacy who branded them. Like, he's a cocoon fallacy. So maybe he's lying about what a pulse fallacy was saying
It's
to
certainly
them.
connected to the bigger mythology as a whole, so let me just say, Jova, to you, it's yes and no at the same time.
Okay, I've just.
I know. I know what the
76
real.
gulps of gin and tonic.
I know what the real case is, but I'm just trying to decipher Vanille's logic for this part of the story, essentially.
Vanilla is essentially trying to cheer up everyone else, but nothing more than that.
I'm not
But
accepting.
anyway, like I was saying though, the bit list says also reveals the fact that the fallacy are literally pushing our heroes through the plot. Like, almost nothing they do is of their own free will. Now I know what you may be thinking. Maybe that's an interesting story point. In reality, it literally is just something that exposes how contrived the plot is to go to extremely, and I do mean extremely specific parameters. Like, just wait until you hear the villain's full plan and you'll realize how specifically this all needed to work out.
You already had to mention something. Sorry, go on, Pedro. Sorry.
See, the thing is, okay. See, the thing is, first of all, I'm not accepting Vanille's quote-unquote attempting to keep us cheer up, because remember, like I've told you, I'm putting in her again. This is all your fault.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
And I'm sorry. I know that I should get over it, but remember, she will get no comeuppance aside from maybe a pat on the back by Snow, and that's it. So I'm sorry. No, I need my karma. I need my catharsis. So
Again, there's technically the ending in terms of come up.
sorry. Like I said, Jova, too little, too late.
I gotta apologize.
But actually, that's one of the better scenes in the game. So
Yeah.
About Sarah's focus. Not like you to second guess yourself.
Well, we did just pretty much get told by the big bad lightning.
And this is actually this is the point where Snow drops the whole heroes don't need plans thing, because this is basically the point where this is basically his wake up to reality,
Sarah was
basically.
strong. That strength got you this far.
True.
Stuff like this is actually not
You're
bad.
so hard to convince us that you even fooled yourself. You've been a total
Basically,
idiot.
yeah.
You've been a total idiot. That summarizes this game in a nutshell.
Basically, yeah.
Saved me.
No, see, here's the thing. If the game was better written, this could have been a really good dynamic between these two. You know, like, yeah, exactly. While technically what drove Snow to up until this point was his idiocy, it was a positive idiocy that allowed him to get shit done, like Jove has said many times, and at the same time, it allowed him to again keep the others, to allow the others to, give a positive influence to the others, The problem is that, again, the game didn't...
That does help them help him.
The problem is that the game didn't really do a good job building up to this moment. But,
honestly... Oh, sorry.
And to expand upon what Jova was saying, no, that's actually a good event. Like from the art, everything from the visual art standpoint of this game is pretty much really top-notch. Again, despite having some really weirdly inconsistent in quality character designs for 10. By the time we got to this game, Nomura had already was already very experienced in his character designs, and by this point he was able to create some really good character designs. Again, the character designs are actually really good. Again, you can tell. The key to great character design is that you can already have a basic idea of how the character is like just by looking at that character. And when you look at these characters, you can tell. Lightning is supposed to be a strong female soldier, and when you look at her without even hearing her say anything, you can tell that this is probably going to be go on.
This bit is revealing that the reason Vanille was on the train for the Purge was because she believed it would be her only way home to Pulse, essentially.
This is another bit that you don't even get particular cutscene, is just summarized.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those cases where, you know what's interesting, Jova? apparently, and this
Hold on, it has to be read actually, Pedro. Go ahead.
this false has Barthandelus is this false has long lived under the guise of gallant Isley, the sanctum supposedly human primarch, unbeknownst even to his closest aides, he has kept watchful catch on the fugitively see through the eyes of this Urkin, Minerva forcing them to grow stronger while the defense in their flight, like we already said. Barthandelus desires only that the Lycee complete their focus, which he explained to be transforming into the beast Ragnarok in order to destroy Orphan and all of Cocoon. Okay, there you go. We already established this.
Oh my god, I thought I was gonna say enemy and Cocoon. I mean, I had to down like 6 shots of gin and tonic in quick succession to catch up.
Wait, already?
Well,
Remember, Shirai, I had to miss some because the next day I had to go to work early.
yeah.
Anyways, that's what you were saying, Pedro?
No, it wasn't. Look at, for example, Hope's design. Like, when you look at Hope, yeah, you can tell he's supposed to be the kid who's, scared because he was thrown into a situation that's completely beyond, what someone like him would be expected to handle. Whereas Saz, of course, you look at him, you see he's basically the Sid of the group. And as for Fang here, yeah, you can tell that Fang is supposed to be that, kind of adventurous, kind of witty, snarky warrior type character. So when so the character designs are actually pretty great. They do a good job in visually showcasing what personality the characters are supposed to have. Obviously, the writing doesn't really live up to the character designs, but well, that's not really Nomura's responsibility there. So.
There's also a good, I think I mentioned in one of the early parts, so there's also a good balance in color of I kind of wish there were just a couple more darker tones, and not necessarily sort of dark, broody and everything, but little darker, pigments of colors for some of the characters. This game loves to be a bit too much on the more brighter side of colors, which in some ways is not really a problem, but despite having each character look distinctly different, having a distinct kind of color scheme to them, you can tell they're a bit more brighter in terms of color for their clothes, in their hair color than something from the previous entries when it came to the characters. You look at someone like, say, Tidus or Van, for example, and they look extensively more, their color pigments actually look more saturated, for lack of a better term, than these.
I'm actually going to say that color-wise, while I feel like the CGI cutscenes are fine color-wise, I do feel like the in-game footage feels like it is missing a particular sense of color to it. Like, it feels like it's still stuck in the earlier phases of 7th Gen gaming, but in a way that
was everywhere.
That too. But also, it does feel like the colors are a little too dulled in-game, whereas in the cutscenes, they're fine.
And keep in mind, Jova, I'm playing this game with the fan remade HD models, because the models that you're looking
as best as it gets for the time being.
Like because the fans did their own job of remastering by redoing all the textures, redoing all the character models, to the point where the game on PC with all these mods raises up to 125 gigs in size. And that's because, remember, most of the cutscenes in this game are pre-rendered. Even the ones that look like they're in-game, they're actually pre-rendered. They're just using in-game graphics, despite being pre-rendered.
Similar to what Platinum Games does. Yes, Dweebs?
I gotta say, on the subject of the writing, Daisuke Watanabe, considering that he did have writing experience before this, he was a writer on Kingdom Hearts, from the first game up until one of the spin-offs. I can't remember which one. I wonder, I mean, for all my gripes about the story in those, the actual cutscenes in isolation, from what I could tell from those games, are fine.
Well, see, the thing is,
whereas in this game, even the ones in isolation are just really.
Well, see, here's the thing,
Okay, first and foremost, that's because Kingdom Hearts on the Norm does not suck to the level of this game. Like, look, as fun as Kingdom Hearts stories may be to Mimon, they're not this terrible. At best, maybe Dream Drop Distance or Birth by Sleep, but no. Kingdom Hearts on the Norm is not comparable to the story of this game.
See, and
that's probably
for
the
one,
first and foremost reason.
for one, Nomura actually told Watanabe what the basic idea was right from the get-go. He wasn't just like, I mean, that's one thing. Okay, for as flawed as Nomura may be,
He knows how to plan out his story. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
he knows
no,
how to plan
no.
out his stories during the development phase of the game. Not in advance like he wants you to believe.
No, no.
Also, I know it's not a justification. There's also the slight difference that Kingdom Hearts, let's face it, Kingdom Hearts is a series where it's a bit silly to begin with.
Well, yeah,
This is
the very
supposed to be a
concept is silly. So.
Well, this is supposed to be a product that tries to take itself much more similar. It's not necessarily that Kingdom Hearts is a self-parody of itself, or it's too comedic, or again, like it's not justification on its own. But there's a bit of a distinction between the tone of seriousness that series and this tends to get, even if it's similar to each other.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Wait. Are you talking about Final Fantasy 13 specifically, or the Final Fantasy in general?
Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah,
because
Pedro.
because some of the best Final Fantasy games do a much better job of balancing comedy. Well, okay, it depends on okay. When it's a Matsuno game, Matsuno's games are usually much more self-serious with way less comedy than Sakaguchi's scripts, because Sakaguchi was even 6. 6 has plenty of comedy in it, despite the game dealing with a lot of serious topics, and that's because Sakaguchi would prefer to try to do a balance of it, whereas people like Matsuno prefer to do a more serious-minded plot with little to no comedy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that with Kingdom Hearts, they take full advantage of the fact that there's Disney characters to provide levity. Well, we got, like, for example, the genie and the other characters that in the original films were already.
As TV Troll says, for instant arm, just add Goofy onto a cutscene.
Exactly, but it's one of those cases where this game takes itself completely seriously. Which, again, it's not necessarily when it tries to have comedy, it falls flat because the writing sucks. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with a movie or a game or whatever that takes itself completely seriously. Look at Grave of the Fireflies, which has barely any comedy in it.
That said, it all comes down to knowing the time and place. Final Fantasy as a game series, I'd say it works at its best when there's a mixture. And I know what some may say, but Final Fantasy I wasn't always focused on comedy. Well, Final Fantasy I had a much more basic script, for starters, let's be honest.
That's the main reason. That's probably the main reason why Nomura picked Final Fantasy I to base Stranger of Paradise on, probably because it was the one that was probably the least of all the sacred cows, so he looked at it and he thought, yeah, I can basically keep the base premise, but at the same time just put my own spin on this thing, and not
put his own spin on things. He certainly did.
I don't know.
I know everything about it from the plot, and I can tell you I'm very satisfied from what I've seen.
No, that's the thing, Jova. Like, people are very open to what Stranger of Paradise does because it's a spin-off. It's not like it's meant to replace the original game anyway. It's just what.
I'm perfectly fine with it too. Like, look. I said it before and I'll say it again. When they just nutted up and revealed what Strangers of Paradise was actually about, that really helped the game big time. Like, I get it. Sometimes you want to have your big twist, but sometimes not being needlessly cryptic about your advertising can go a long mile. Like, I am excited to see what Strangers of Paradise does. Like, I do feel a bit sorry that Nomura wasn't expecting people to laugh at a story, and let's be honest, that is such a Square Enix move that I ain't even surprised.
I can tell you this, Jova. I don't know why it's gonna happen for the time being, especially since we're recording this, the game has just come out. Unfortunately, the gaming journalists have not understood the game one way or another, both narrative and gameplay, which is a bit sad. Hold on, give me a second to that. The community, it's not just about, the memes and the killing chaos and everything. I can tell you this so far, at least so far, there is a decent size percentage of people who genuinely like the story for the themes that it tells and understand the tragedy that it is, because in true tradition, and again without spoiling too much, it's a typical type of prequel-esque story that Nomura essentially had to handle. If you play stuff like Birth by Sleep or the Seeded Duodecim, you kind of know exactly how things are going to unfold, but it's still kind of like a spectacle to behold.
It's one of those things.
No. I mean, like I said, we kind of do know that when they reveal that this is the origin of Garland. And yet, at the very least, we do know that it will in the end have a happy ending going off of how Final Fantasy I technically ends. But I mean, yeah, totally. And okay, Let me put it like this. I feel like the silliness was a good drawing point, but at the end of the day, the story should hopefully still be well fleshed out enough to actually, warrant more. Like,
We shall see.
Sure.
Let me put it this way.
It's kind of like with No Way Home, how the leaks were definitely what really got the ball rolling, but when people actually saw the movie itself, there was even more good to it, which just got even more better word of mouth. That's how I see the best outcome for Stranger of Paradise.
Yes, Pedro?
No, see, the thing is, I will play a bit of devil's advocate. I love Stranger of Paradise. I've been playing it, and it's a lot of fun. And I love the unapologetically edgy tone it has. That being said, too, at the same time, I can at the very least understand some arguments where, like I said, the game clearly was given a AA budget, and as a result, there's no towns to explore. You just pick
Oh no,
NPCs.
I don't mean that. I mean that people are using the usual buzzword when it comes to a game like this by saying that Jack is a representation of toxic masculinity and stuff like that.
What?
Yeah, they went there.
Oh, fucking hell! I just.
No, you know
And
what?
by the way, people struggle even with story mode enabled. But that's hold on, this is actually important.
Even
So,
casual.
where are we now?
Yeah.
We're in kind of a train station.
It's kind of creepy.
I can't believe this is not lightning. Lightning. I don't think we're in Cocoon anymore.
Also, wait, that line. I can't believe we're still in Cocoon. Well, of course you're still in Cocoon. The
It's
ship took
time,
you.
again, in a sort of a nod to the original Final Fantasy, it's time for an upgrade to our heroes.
Yep.
Convenient, ain't it?
Alright, I'll team up with one when the next fight begins.
Actually, it's gonna start now. Actually, go on.
You know one thing that kind of disappointed me a little bit when I played the recently released demo that had Chapter 1 of Stranger of Paradise?
Go on.
Well,
They shortened the scene where he bullshits.
I know, right? I know, right? God damn it! Like,
Why?
I'm guessing they noticed how people were memeing it, so they tried
Oh,
to.
come on,
okay,
Square.
they haven't really changed it too much. The only major change that happened is slightly shorter in terms of the span. You hear less of the music, and instead of Jack just turning off the iPod, he removes his earplugs.
I know.
I mean, it does.
Oh no,
it does,
this
it does-
is important.
Yeah, your party members have unlocked the potential to assume all combat roles. From now on, you may also freely select the members of your battle team. To take on a new role, a member must first learn an ability for that role. You can teach a party member new abilities via the Christian. So there you go. Now all the
It would
party.
have been nice to have had this ages ago.
It sounds cool on paper, but it has its double edge.
Basically, he can play the music without even looking at his phone.
She's not
Say
saying Java.
something!
The fifth
The fifth
arc.
arc.
Okay.
Well, okay then.
It's a good thing we sorry. It's a good thing we. Don't worry, I'll recap this. It's a good thing we commentated on the second demo. That way we can immortalize our reactions to that original scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Long ago, the Fossey pulse. Yes, basically.
Now, why did the ship take them there, you may be wondering?
You'll see, Jova. Well, actually, the others will see. But yeah.
Yeah.
And they hid the ice all over the world.
Everyone on Grand Pulse knew the legend. So, this is basically a pulse armory.
Most of us never believed in them. A few people tried searching, but they never found a thing. Who'd have thought to look on Cocoon?
Right under our noses. Some secret they kept. Those Sanctum guys, what are they up to?
The story's not.
Well, yeah, they apparently kept it really well because nobody found them.
They used to say the Orcs had a more practical purpose.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, to force Lassie to master their shiny new powers.
Training grounds on the other
So,
hand.
I get it. Daisley's goal is to forge us into stronger weapons. Right.
Not
So
safe,
literally,
but
he is
monsters
running
are
us
the
through
same.
an obstacle course.
Literally, yes. That's exactly what is being, like I said, that's what is being from the beginning. Make them lazy and then starting make them stronger, just so they can become Ragnarok when it's needed.
Here is my problem with this part of the story. It is so telegraphed. Like, yeah, the story excuses that they want us to become stronger, but it feels just like a thinly veiled excuse to have this happen in the game here and there.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of stories.
Also,
this
yeah,
also
go on,
this also
It's gonna
poses
take a while to catch up anyway.
yeah. This also poses a new dilemma. Now that we know what our focus is, which is meaning to destroy Cocoon, in order to save Cocoon, it's very simple. Just do nothing. Just sit around and do nothing.
I thought you were saying, yeah, it's simple. Yeah.
And yet for what? I mean, so yeah, if we can stop, and believe me, the game will even make that point later. If we can stop this by doing nothing, we'll do nothing. The problem is, let's just say the characters will contradict that statement at the climax.
Not only that, but it would be, again, it's a thing that it's a neat idea on paper, even to be discussed and potentially deconstructed, but the game does a poor job at it.
It's like Toriyama and Watanabe right at this point in the script and realize, oh shit, that's right. We got them to a point where the characters can basically save the world by doing absolutely nothing. So how can we have a cool climax where they fight the final boss like this?
Force the story even more.
No, I got it. I got an idea.
Go on.
Since the character, hey, they didn't say specifically a way they could do nothing. So they could do nothing physically, but mentally, on the other hand, they got something in their minds.
You know, here's one thing that the fallacy never seemed to think of throughout the plot. So these guys clearly don't want to destroy Cocoon, so what's stopping the fallacy from just trying again with another bout of
That's the idea, Jova. That's the idea, Jova. They're keeping testing on them, and if they see they're really not gonna do that and turn into sheep, they're just gonna do more. That's the ideal dilemma, and to say that not doing anything is not an option for these people. They still have to do something no matter what. The problem is that the game, once again, will convey this plot point poorly.
That's actually what I was about to say. The problem is that the game never addresses that possibility.
No, he mentioned that at the end of Erba, to be honest.
Okay. Like you said, though, it's portrayed badly in the sense where you wouldn't blame anybody for still asking that question because...
Well, we did that in the original run, so yes, that is something that happened.
So yeah, I forgot the rest of the game. My go-to party will be Lightning, Hope, and Fang, because Hope...
Oh wow, you've changed, because you used to be about how you always wanted to do the first three.
That's the thing, Jova. This game very clearly... Even though... Here's the thing about this, Jova. In Final Fantasy VII, for example, if you know what you're doing with the correct setup materials, you can make any character be as strong as you want them to be.
Yeah.
Problem is, in Final Fantasy XIII, it doesn't quite work that way. While it is true that at this point all the characters have all jobs, you'd think all the characters can be whatever you want to be and as strong as you can, right? Nope. Basically, here's how it works. Each individual character in this game has 3 roles that they specialize in. In the case of Lightning here, her 3 specialist jobs are Commando / Physical Fighter, Medic, and Ravager, aka Black Mage. Here's the problem. If you try to raise her as a Sentinel, a Saboteur, or a Synergist, she will gain some base abilities of it, but she will never be as strong as a Sentinel as Snow, she will never be as strong of a Saboteur as Vanille, she will never be as strong of a Synergist as Saz. As a result,
it sounds more like the illusion of choice.
As a result, it means that, like for example, and Spoonie put it best in his original vlog review. Why would you bother if Hope is the best the best mage in the game? Why would you bother raising his commando role at this point? It doesn't matter. Because not to mention, Jova, the CP requirement, aka the skill points required to progress through the skill trees in any jobs, is immense. Meaning it's a fucking It's a fucking grindy as shit task to max out the other roles for all the characters. Meaning, it's just not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth
Probably
it.
isn't helped by the fact
Mind
that up
you-
until this point, the game has been restricting you to these certain classes. It's like with Mega Man X7. By the time you get Mega Man X, you'll have been leveling up the other characters more so.
Yeah.
Mind you-
Although that's the thing, it's the thing, Jova. In that case, it's still dumb, but it's amazing how it's how it's not the dumbest thing about that. The fact it's still the fact that you had to unlock the title character in the first place. I mean, at least in this, could you imagine if in 13.2 or Lightning Returns you had to unlock Lightning?
Well, that's
should we tell him, guys,
that's how it is in 13.2, Dwibs. That's how.
That is literally how it is in 13.2.
But two things.
X6, it's even worse. You have to buy DLC to get to properly play as Lightning.
Okay.
Two things. One, the one thing that at the least these new jobs give you is still the stat boost. So at the very least, that is. It's not even a case of, that is actually appreciated. It's actually pivotal because the game is about to ramp up so its difficulty, So you still need those stat boosts. And two, not in this dungeon, but after this, essentially, when the game will actually open up, you will be able to obtain via some of the side quests an item that is called the Golden Egg, which doubles the amount of Crystarium points that you get from each fight, making your job significantly easier on that.
Well, I mean, in 13.2's case, at least there technically isn't a title character.
Well,
They still plaster lightning on the cover.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Again, title, not cover art.
See the thing is.
I mean, at that point, then you may as well be calling Mega Man technically more of a cover art character in the ones that don't have his name on it, even though he still is the main lead.
Even if Lightning is not in the title until the third game, Dwebs, she is the designated main character by Toriyama himself. Like, if you ask Toriyama positions her as the main character of this trilogy. She's the be all end all as far as he's concerned. So the fact that in 13.2 we have to basically unlock her is quite. But that being said, Jova, I have good news for you. The PC version comes with all the DLC already included.
Yeah.
That being said,
Yay!
Dibs, I have bad news for you, since you plan on playing the sequel once we finish this playthrough. On the Xbox backwards compatibility, it's still based on the original 360 versions, you still have to buy the DLC separately.
How much is the DLC?
I don't know.
If I recall correctly, it ranges. Like some of the bigger fights might be $5, but the cost, if you strictly care about the costumes for 13.2 at least, it's like $1 each, if I remember correctly. But I think it turns it's a bit more sketchy on that front.
So Pedro, can I just point out the irony that back in our original run, where it was much harder on you, you still persevered with going with the free original characters, but now you're doing it so that, you're going with a more efficient team. However, it's while the game's on easy mode. The duality of man.
Basically. This is why Square Enix has to get to a point where they need to come up with some kind of, again, do what you did with the 10 duology. Create a Final Fantasy 13 collection of sorts where you can just sell all 3 games properly remastered, and this time give the developers time to make these ports good, unlike what we did to the PC ports. You know what's the sad part? The 13 and 13.2 have really bad PC ports, but wonder of wonders, the Lightning Returns PC port is just fine.
The worst game of the trilogy gets the best PC port.
That's the thing, Joe, but you can tell the Lightning Returns PC port was made by a different set of developers because the overall way it's constructed is very different. It doesn't have the same menu style, the same basic. You can tell it was made by a different team. Either a different team or maybe the original, the same team decided to completely revamp how they do things. One of the two. But basically Square, do what you did with the 10 duology. Really come up with a basic free game package that you can resell over and over. Because these games, for all intents and purposes, these games are still stuck in. Remember, the best versions of this game right now, without mods, are the Xbox Series versions. Through backwards compatibility, they're still the original, based on the original 360 versions. Square needs to get out of their asses and actually re-release these games. Don't get me wrong, I hate these games, but that doesn't. But I
preservation purpose.
But I may hate these games, but I hate lack of preservation more. So, so get to it, Square. Come on, these Final Fantasy, and Brenda brought up a good point in his reviews, by the way. Final Fantasy XIII, the first one specifically, is the only main title game that has yet to get a proper major re-release. Yes, it got technically a PC port in 2014, but it wasn't even given any. It was released with little to no fanfare. So no, the Square needs to get around to re-releasing a proper free game collection on consoles, on PS5, especially now that on the Ultra, the 4K Blu-rays of the Xbox Series X and the PS5 are capable of holding all free games in there. So you can easily get that done. Get to it, Square.
But the question is, considering the reputation these games have, who's going to buy them?
Well, Dwebs, that's...
You'll be surprised, Dwebs. In the recent years, there have become a lot of people have actually come out and said that we actually have some nostalgia on these games.
Yeah.
It's an effect that keeps happening periodically in each new generation.
There's actually a lot of people out there who have either changed their mind on the game or have discovered the game for the first time recently and say, I enjoyed it. So, what can I tell you, Dwebs? All right, see ya for the next part.
See ya for the next part.
See ya.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.